Hi, everyone. Thank you. Thank you. Jump on this side. I think it'll be a little easier. My name is Doug Schwichtenberg. I've been an imaging service engineer for about 15 years. I started as a biomed intern while in college at Children's Hospital in Chicago and kind of worked my way up through imaging. All third party, I haven't worked for an OEM, but I've been to most of the OEM's trainings, GE, Siemens for MR, CT, NucMed, et cetera. Yeah, so big step for me. I was with the same organization I am with now when I was promoted into this position. So I knew the team really well, but also my team was going to grow too. I was going to take on additional team than just my local guys that I worked with every day. It encompasses a little bit more out in Grand Junction, Colorado, which is about 4 hours west of Denver. I have 2 engineers out there at a medical facility, and then I have 3 service engineers up in Montana that cover 3 additional hospitals. So in total, there's 11 service engineers and 8 hospitals and a whole bunch of imaging clinics along the way. Some of the topics I'll cover today, transitioning from a peer to a leader. So kind of the steps I took to get here, some challenges along the way. Building trust and respect within a highly tenured team. Most of the guys on my team have been doing this for longer than I have and are older than me. So how did I build trust and respect with those guys? Learning to become a remote leader. This is also something I haven't really had before, haven't done before, or has had a remote leader in the past before. So how did I make sure that I was an effective remote leader and make sure those guys were engaged as well? Hiring an FTE, what is fit versus skill? Some of you guys have probably heard this before, but what does it really mean? What is fit versus skill? It was the first time I had to use this. It was the first time I conducted interviews on my own too. So that was part of the criteria as well. Learning opportunities, these are things, and mistakes too. There's just some mistakes I've made in my first year. Learning opportunities, things I have learned, things I plan to learn in year 2 as well. Professional growth, again, things I have done for myself this past year. And then self-care, it's pretty self-explanatory, but this new job came with the whole new stress, new types of stress that I had to learn to manage as well. So it is important. It's kind of self-explanatory, self-care, but definitely something shouldn't be overlooked. Transitioning from a peer to a leader. So once this happened, the announcement was made, interviewed for the position. There was also another employee on my team who interviewed for the same position too. So we were kind of friendly competition there. So I individually met with each caregiver one-on-one. I wanted to know how they were feeling. Was there any hard feelings? Really what they needed to be successful in this job. Also, I wanted to know what they liked and didn't like about their previous manager too. I wanted to keep doing the things that they liked and try to improve on the things that they didn't or what wasn't working for them. Consistent communication. This is done in a lot of different ways. I have weekly meetings with my guys, a weekly imaging huddle, every Tuesday at 8 a.m. We talk about down equipment. It's also a time where I ask for recognition. These are recognizing my team members when they do a good job, when I hear about it, but I also ask them to recognize their coworkers as well if they got help doing something. Someone was able to take a first look for them when they weren't able to get there quick enough, save some time. Recognition comes in lots of different ways as well. Lunch cards, I hand out a lot of lunch cards. Hey, let me buy you lunch today, great job. Just a quick, easy way, and the guys really appreciate it too. It doesn't cost the company any money really. Kudo board, this is kind of a posting board where you can say, hey, good job, kind of forward that recognition. And so it's not just verbal in my weekly meetings, but also I'll post those on the Kudo board too. This also comes when someone on my team recognizes someone else on the team. I'll put it on there on their behalf as well. So one of the things I did here and has worked good for me is praise in public, discipline in private. It's a pretty good rule to follow. I think everyone will appreciate that. you know, if they're doing something wrong, I try not to make an example out of everyone, but pull them off to the side and say, hey, this is what we're going, this is what happened, or this is what didn't go quite as right. These are the expectations. And then again, recognition is praise in public. So make sure everyone knows that you're being recognized for a job well done, whether it's staying late or working on the weekend or whatever it might be. Just recognition for a job well done. Building trust and respect within a highly tenured team. Obviously, this is has a lot to do with integrity. Practice what you preach, do what you say what you do. For me, this was maintaining my technical proficiency and also carrying a workload as a manager, being a working manager. I think this really goes a long way for my guys to know that I'm willing to roll up my sleeves and take on some of the work, I have less workload than I did before, but I think something that does go a long way. Advocate for my team. This is something I do constantly. Just being here, this is one of those ways. Another thing, my company has recently merged. 2 large companies have merged. We have 2 clinical engineering departments, and we use 2 separate CMMS systems. So we're going to evaluate a new CMMS system. You know, again, it's, but I have voiced for my team, I want to make sure I have 2 of my guys at the table when they're evaluating the CMMS systems and make sure that you know, they have input as well. It's not just the managers making this decision for a CMMS system. Recognize wins. Again, this is part of the recognition that I mentioned, but also encourage the team members to recognize their peers. This is a big thing. This goes a long way. It really does. It shows appreciation, not just for me that I care, but also that the rest of the guys on the team really appreciate the work that everyone's doing too. And it just helps really build that team atmosphere. We're all working towards the same goal. We're all helping each other, and we're all in this together, right? Building relationships with key stakeholders. This is probably something I do a little bit differently, but I hold QBRs or sometimes monthly service meetings with all of my imaging managers at the sites. You hear GE and Siemens or other ISOs who will hold those if they're part of their CE team. So I will hold quarterly business reviews with all of my managers as kind of internal marketing. We'll talk about missed PMs, extended downtime, equipment in and out. That's a big one too. It's always great to be on the same page and have that conversation with the imaging leaders on equipment that's coming in and out. And part of their plans too, their replacement plans. I feel like I'm going a little bit fast. Any questions so far? Thanks.
So you guys find that in your system or your health system, or maybe your team does something about it, do you help the imaging leaders and maybe finding out what new vendor or what piece of equipment it has? Do you guys have a unified voice when you go to the decision makers above you?
Yeah, it's a little bit of a two-way street. I try not to be too pushy to tell them what equipment they should buy because I'm not the clinician. I'm not the one performing the exam. So I definitely do make good recommendations. We like to test things. If they do demos, the CE department will demo it too along with them. We'll point out a lot of some of the quick breaking points on some of those demos, something that we see they might not see. The way we use the equipment is a lot different from the way they use the equipment, right? So yes, and I hope to build that more in too. I've heard some really great information so far in some of the other classes about non-obsolescence planning and really planning 5-10 years out on some imaging equipment. So it's something we don't have, at least in my region, or that I'm not aware of. Might be happening on the supply chain, but something I hope to bring back with me too, so I can work with the imaging leaders as well.
In my experience, I'm sure, just as an imaging leader, it was amazing how much value it brought once you and I were on the same. You may not be perfect, my number one, maybe your number two, but when we went as a unified front and they did give us that underwater basket weaving brand that nobody wanted, but the CFO, because whatever reason, it kind of really worked out.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's just meeting with your, imaging managers on a regular basis, whether it's a QBR style or not. It could just be a monthly imaging huddle with the HTM department and your imaging managers. I think it goes a really long way. And then there's a lot less surprises too, that's part of that constant communication. I think it'll be on the next slide, but it's not. One thing I learned, might be on another slide, but communication buys grace, and that's really true. The more you're able to communicate and the more they can plan for the equipment being down or what to expect, the better they will be. Better be prepared for it. Go to the next one. Learning to become a remote leader. So again, this is something I had to learn too. And something that can be different for a lot of managers. Learning to become a remote leader. I had to make sure that they were engaged and included. So if I bought lunch for one team, I had to buy it for the other team. And I try to hold a lunch with my team probably once a quarter, if not more. And I try to do it between the different teams. So I mentioned some of my guys are in Montana. So one quarter I'll go up to Montana, buy lunch for them, and have the rest of my guys dial in and just kind of an open forum discussion for lunch, and kind of switch around to the different sites, kind of alternate those. Ensure caregivers are treated fairly. One example I had of this where two of my regions, their imaging guys were getting paid to be on call. And in the other side, they weren't. They said, well, it really works for us. We're kind of just available. We adjust our personal schedules. We'll come in on the weekends when we need to. It just works for us in the hospital. Okay, well, I won't change anything, but I think you're missing out. So, a few months later, a conversation came up about pay. Well, you guys are really missing out on on-call pay. So that went a long way too. So we got approval from management, imaging service managers, and our HTM department to get those guys on call too. So ensuring that they're treated fairly and the expectations are the same across the board too, whether they're remote or not. Recognition, I've mentioned this a few times. Some of you guys are imaging managers. One thing I like to ask during my kind of quarterly check-ins is how my guys like to be recognized. How do you like to be recognized? Any of you guys have a way you like to be recognized? Is that praise in public go for you guys? Do you like a shout out? Do you like, buying lunch? What has worked for you guys?
I buy lunch a lot.
You buy lunch a lot.
Yeah.
Food, people love food, right? Yeah, that's one way I have really found that really goes a long way. People love to eat, so it really just makes everyone more relaxed, and it really opens up discussions too. Keeps the forum open. So let's go to the next slide. Hiring FTE. What is fit versus skill? I've heard this before, but what does it mean? It means someone who gives a damn. And someone who cares, but there's some engineers who are really good at fixing stuff, but they're kind of a jerk. And this isn't for everybody. There's obviously lots of in between there, but really it boils down to someone who cares. There's a quote here: "People don't know how much you care until they know. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care." And that's really true, especially in imaging too. Someone with high integrity, again, some of the things that I look for in myself as well. And someone can work with ambiguity as well. This is if imaging service engineer really only worked for the OEM and they're coming to an in-house program, there's a lot of stuff they're used to saying, oh, I can't touch it, I'm not trained. But when we're in-house, we really have to cover everything, no matter what you're trained on, right? So this was also something I looked for too, in fit versus skill. Obviously, skill goes a long way, but it was something that I used in my hiring practice, and it really worked for my team. My team really loves the hire that I hired. They love working with them, and really just kind of brings the team together too. So.
First year trying to interview people.
Yeah, the first time I interviewed someone, geez, I was just as nervous as probably, as the interviewer, the interviewee, on both sides of the table. So.
What did you do to bring up your skills for interviewing someone, right, from being on the other side?
Absolutely. Well, I asked for help. That's for sure. I brought some people into my interview panel, other biomed managers who have been with the company for a while. I also brought someone from my imaging service team to the interview panel as well. So I definitely had help. I wrote out the questions first and I asked, kind of my supervisors, these are the questions I plan to ask, any recommendations. So it was kind of up to me, but definitely asked for help. I think that's something I did a lot in my first year, was ask for help and not to be afraid to ask for help. And people are really willing to help you out.
With you being such a wide area, my organization, when I was at the VA, we would do all our interviews over Zoom and stuff like that. Is that what you guys are also doing?
Yeah.
Or how do you do it?
It was a mix. We did a little bit of both. I think, in-person interviews are probably best for me anyways. That's just, you really get a better feel for the person. You can kind of walk the halls with them, show them some of the equipment. It's not just this brief interaction where I kind of drill you questions and you answer them. So for me, I like to be in person, but this day and age, and also the help I had on my interview panel, one of the helps I had was remote. So she had to come in and Zoom in for the interview too. So, yep. So yeah, we did it over Zoom. Yeah, that works good.
I've actually added something to fit versus skill because personally, if you don't know something, I can train you to what you don't know, but I'm not going to take the time to teach you how to interact with others or how to be a good person. So it's including diversity in my hiring process. I'm looking to see if somebody's going to be a good fit, but I also don't want to exclude someone that may be bringing something to our team that we don't currently have. And so I'm factoring that in and asking the question, what can you bring to my team that we're missing?
Right.
What are you going to provide to us? Because, if it's the right person who's willing to learn, we can teach you how to do whatever the thing is. As long as you have the credentials, then we can do it. But if you're not the right personality,
that's right,
then everybody's going to be miserable.
Yep. Yeah, we can send you to training, but really changing who you are as a person probably not going to happen, right? If you're just the mean person, well, maybe customer service isn't the right job for you, So anything else on fit versus skill? I think this is kind of a very broad topic and it can be interpreted in many different ways. There'll be time for questions too and comments at the end if you guys think of anything. Learning opportunities and mistake, email etiquette. This was one I got in trouble for right out of the gate. You cannot say we will no longer buy X from you, no matter how bad that vendor upsets you. You cannot speak on behalf of the entire organization, and whether it's true or not, sometimes you really can't tell them how you feel. So sometimes it could be better not to respond. Some real good salesmen, you'll tell them, no, we're not interested. I'll call you back. I'll call you when we need it. Well, what can I do to earn your business? And they keep driving, and eventually you might say something you don't want to say, right? Tell them the truth, right? We don't want to use you because of such and such, right? Mentoring, that's something I hope to learn more about. Is also I'm kind of building my team as well, so this is something I'm learning to do as I navigate this position too. Things I plan to learn in year 2. How do hospitals work the business? How do they make their money? How do they work reimbursement rates? How do HCAP scores play into part of that? How does Medicare and private insurance, how do the different paying types affect the hospital as well? Not just the imaging department. X-ray versus MRI charges. I think something about $17 for a chest X-ray in the ER, and an MRI is somewhere around $450, right, in reimbursement. So big disparity in reimbursement rates, and which leads to this bottom line here, cost of an episode of downtime. That's something that I haven't really seen a lot of in our field, is how much does it really cost the hospital to have their CT down? Not just in lost revenue, but also patients too. If patient comes in for their scheduled exam, they have been fasting for 24 hours, they show up, I'm sorry, Mrs. Jones, our scanner's broke, go home, eat a sandwich, come fast for another 24 hours, and then come back to us tomorrow, right? How many of those patients aren't even gonna come back? They got a bad taste in their mouth, whatever it is, I'm just gonna go somewhere else. They, drove all the way down here, et cetera. So it's not just lost revenue on not being able to scan the patient. It goes way beyond that too. And that's something that our imaging service engineers, our guys in the field don't understand. We don't understand at all.
It goes from the community too. So like you said, it's not just we want to be your health system that you choose to go to, not just go to because we're around the corner from. That's a very big thing.
Yeah.
And if it's an extended downtime, I've got to send staff home.
Yep.
And so now I'm sending staff home because that's the only PET scanner I have, and it's down. What am I gonna do with my PET tech?
Yeah. It's not just, it's something that I think us service engineers don't understand.
That develops the conflict between us and you, so to speak. There's a polarization between imaging and engineering, which
Well,
team together to mess with the big vendors.
it takes CE from the fix-it guys to part of the care team,
Yes.
right? So that's something we are trying to get. So one way I'm trying to instill this in my guys too, when they report down equipment to me, I send out a daily imaging report for the whole area, all the imaging equipment for my region that's down, send it off to all the imaging managers, so everybody knows. But one thing I always ask my guys, any patients rescheduled? That's something the hospital administrators and leaders really want to know. And when you ask that question as imaging service engineer, that also, ties you into that care team. Shows that you care a little bit more, not just, oh, it's going to be broken, I'll get the parts here as soon as I can. Right. Yeah, exactly. Professional growth. I did get my certificate in healthcare technology management this past November. It did a lot of things for me. Kind of gave me some confidence in my job that I was, capable of doing this job. It gave confidence to my fellow peers, my other imaging managers that, well, this guy just got promoted into this position. Does he have any idea what he's doing? It kind of gave me some credit there too. And I think we talked about it a little bit earlier. It also kind of motivated some of my guys to maybe get their C-res as well. It's something that I'm trying to push my guys to do a little bit, at least spark their interest. So that is something that, oh, well, he did it, I could do it too. So, and it's something that I can help them with as well. Communication buys grace. This isn't always true, but if you ask an imaging service manager, if they can plan for a system to be down for 2 or 3 days in advance, they can handle it, right? It's when they can't plan on it. It's the unexpected downtime and, under-delivered promises, really. So communication buys grace. That goes with the imaging managers especially, and my guys too. Learning to see and act in gray and embrace ambiguity. This is something that I had to learn too. As an imaging service engineer, or as an engineer, my mind is kind of black and white. There's a solution to a problem, I'm gonna find it. In management, there's lots of different ways to go about doing something and coming to the same result, right? So this is something I had to learn and kind of be okay with too. Something I had to kind of adjust with to my guys doing things in a different way than maybe I wanted to be done, but gotten the same result. So something I had to learn. Balancing a new role with family. This might be self-explanatory, but taking on a new role like this, I really wanted to just kind of work all the time. I could work all the time. If I left my computer on, I could probably go nonstop, but making sure I gave myself time to spend with my family is a big one too. And definitely something someone should look out for if they were making this transition too. Leveraging relationships with peers, that was asking for help from my fellow biomed managers. Asking for help on the interview, how to do something, whether it's something in the time cards or payroll, or how to get contracts signed too. Our processes, learning the process, not being afraid to ask for help too. Boy, this went pretty fast, huh? It's all right. Self-care, it's not just finding time to relax. It's taking care of yourself mentally, physically, emotionally, socially, and spiritually as well. Not just going home and going to the bar or sitting in front of your TV and watching a show. It's making sure you're exercising, you are bringing everything you need into your life that you need it. You're spending time with family, you're getting your exercise, you're doing things like this, you're coming out of your comfort zone a little bit. Just really got to take care of yourself too. Questions, comments, things I can do better, any ideas?
I have a question.
Sure.
What advice would you give to someone who is in a peer role, who is going to be moving into a leadership role over their peers? What advice would you give them? What pitfalls to look out for to try and help navigate that change in relationship?
Don't go in there and try to change anything, really. Find out what's working good for your team and keep doing those good things, and find out what's not working good and then try to improve on those things. But don't go in there with your great idea of this is how I think it should run, or this is the way you guys should do things. How are you guys doing it? What makes sense for you guys? You really just be open. Just be open, be part of their team, not their manager. I think I've told my guys a lot of times, I'm not a manager. That managing is for bank accounts and budgets, right? I'm a leader of this team, and we're all working towards the same common goal. And I'm just going to be here to advocate for you guys and make sure we got the tools we need to get the job done. Right.
So what do you do? Possible improvement, which you could have done on this slide. You could have told us what you do for your own self-care. What is myself, I would say.
Yeah.
My kids started buying me Lego Star Wars a couple years ago. So that's what I do is I go home. I don't listen to anybody. I look at the pictures, follow it, and I could zone out.
Yeah.
So that could might be something you could set in this.
Yeah, absolutely. For me, it's outdoor activities. I live in Colorado. I ride mountain bikes. I ski and snowboard. I like to go camping. I like to get out in nature. That's how I do it. I think it's different for everybody. I don't go to the gym necessarily, but I get my exercise in other ways. Any other self-care tips? What do you guys do? Do you guys find ways? Taekwondo.
You cannot think about if you're doing martial arts. You cannot. You will hurt yourself. You'll hurt somebody else. You have to be focused in what you're doing, and it's a great activity I can do with my daughter.
Excellent.
Because she is almost a second-degree black belt, and so we started doing it together over a year ago, and it's been good to spend time with her, but it's been more beneficial for me professionally because it allows me to check out. I take my watch off. You cannot contact me during those classes, And
Right.
the team knows they'll leave me a voicemail and then I'll check it after, I'm like, okay, am I coming back to work? Am I taekwondo closed? Like, what is happening? Do you need me? Or, can we handle this remotely? But it's stress relief. I get to punch and kick people who want me to. With our partner. So, it's stress relief, but it's also mental focus.
Yeah.
It's finding that thing for you that lets you totally check out and have your time just for you.
Absolutely, absolutely. For me, it's riding my bike. That's something I've done since I was a kid. I raced bikes as a kid growing up, so I still can really zone out when I ride my bike. But I think for everybody, they have their thing, right? Any other questions, comments,
So
tips? I'm still learning in this very much, so.
I started as an administrator of an imaging center about 10 months ago, and I threw myself all in. It had every problem imaginable. Literally think of it, it has this problem or had the problem.
Uh-huh.
And I was working 60 to 80 hours.
I started that too, right?
And what I found is that for me, it's not even so much what I do when I'm not at work as it is what boundaries do I have at work? How am I spending my energy?
Excellent,
How
yeah.
many projects am I taking on? Do I have email on my phone? Do I have IM on my phone? What boundaries have I communicated to the leadership around me? What is it that I'm asking for? What accountability am I holding the people above me to?
Excellent,
And
yeah.
so those are the things that, for me, even giving me the energy to be able to do anything when I'm not at work. And I have a toddler at home, so I can't, there's not a lot that I can really do, honestly, to have me time. But yeah, so that's my 2 cents. It's been a lot of how do I pace myself? How do I make sure I don't just burn out? What are my boundaries? How do I conserve energy?
Absolutely, and I think that everyone will probably struggle with that too, and it's definitely something I struggled with too. But yeah, finding those things that you can do, and yeah, make those boundaries. That's great advice too. I'm thinking of some ways I could do that in my job now.
And it's tricky too, especially I think maybe everyone in here has had the feeling where it's like, am I being set up for failure right now?
Uh-huh.
Am I damned if I do and damned if I don't? And those
Right.
are the positions that I find that tend to be the most draining.
Yeah.
I'm walking this political tightrope and I don't have the power I want.
That's also been a struggle for me too. Yeah, all of the responsibility and.
Yeah, and so how do you shift some of that responsibility where it's like, actually, this is kind of above my pay grade. I think this looks a lot like your job, CFO, or whoever it is, CEO of the local hospital. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And anytime earlier in my career, I don't think emotionally I would have been able to handle it with the type of patience that I have now, which having a toddler helped. But
yes, I have a toddler at home too.
So you talked about how you work remotely.
Yeah.
How much of your staff works remotely?
About.
Because campuses are switched out.
It's because campuses are switched out. My engineers don't really work remotely. Again, I give them a little bit of leeway, of course, but no. And I'm usually on site too. And like I said, I travel to those other sites every quarter. Every quarter.
How do you stay connected with everybody to make sure you guys are all operating? And what have you found has been successful?
Every quarter too. One thing I probably skipped over too was I hold quarterly check-ins with each one of my caregivers too. So every Wednesday at 8 a.m. I have a different one of my guys scheduled out on the calendar. Just come sit down in my office, very open discussion. What's going well? What are you having a problem with? Do you have all the tools you need? Is there any training that would be useful, for you? And just kind of a really open discussion with them too. That constant communication really goes a long way too. Some of them might roll their eyes when they see another check-in. Oh, I got to go to the check-in, but most of them are really excited. We share great information, and I'm able to support them in a really great way.
That sounds like they find it rewarding if they have a voice in the overall.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I'm a big fan of the quarterly, we call them check-ins. It kind of gets rid of that yearly review and it puts it into a quarterly thing. So you know your expectations, where you can improve along the way. It doesn't come as a surprise to you where, oh, you've been missing the mark this whole year and you're not going to get your raise. So I can check in with them once a quarter, let them know how they're doing, ways they can improve, any signs of, trouble that I see.
And it increases the positive interactions with you in your office. So
Yep.
when you call somebody and say, hey, can you head down? They're not freaked out because they're getting called in the principal's office.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Great point there too. I don't know, how do you guys keep your teams engaged? It's hard, right? How do you keep them
When they
active, right?
I ask them, okay, what do you think? How do you think we should fix this?
Ask for their input, absolutely.
They eventually learn that if they're gonna bring me a problem, my next question is, how do you think we're gonna fix it? Or what can we do to fix it? What do you suggest? So that they're bringing solutions with them.
Yeah.
And it's made a huge difference.
It also helps with your succession planning.
Yes, succession planning is a big thing. That's something I learned about new in this role too. When I took onto this role, something my manager started doing with me is succession planning. Oh, okay, very cool.
Mhm.
You're right.
Sometimes it works.
Sometimes it works. Uh-huh.
Bring some of the higher performers to an event like this, provide them with training opportunity. Let them sit in on calls and meetings that may not directly impact what it is they're doing, but it's good for them to just see other sides of the business and, people that like to learn and grow really appreciate that. Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of hard to pinpoint these things on my everyday thing, but this are things that I do too. I'm here right now. I have my service engineers cover my meetings for me. It's just, even though if they don't know the answers, we can find the answers, and we need the clinical engineering or HTM representation there.
Also,
Right.
let them look behind the curtain to see you're not just sitting in the office all day long too. They get the taste for like, okay, I'm not.
Yeah. Yeah. It's hard. It's hard managing all those meetings every day, and got to be there at the right minute, right? And